Welcome. We are doing cutting instructions for the focal fabric or the background fabric for this particular quilt right here. It's called the Polynesia quilt, and it has 4 stars, and we're going to take 4 days and do 1 star each day. But the very first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and cut out the background fabric, which in my case is going to be white, but I'm going to be practicing on another color. So this is actually the color that I'm using for mine, which also comes in the kit. But I've honestly cut this out so many times that I've decided not to use any more of that particular color because it's a white batik, so I want to kind of save it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut out on this piece of practice. So what I have done, let me get this out of my way, is I have stopped and actually hand-drawn directions on the best way to cut this so that you get everything that you need out of it. There are 2 different sheets. The first sheet is folding it over from the longest and across the short edge. So this fabric is 1 5/8, which is, when you add it together, it actually turns out to be 58.5 inches long, which is quite long, as you can see. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up, and of course you're going to want to iron out the crease in the center, but we're going to fold it over in half, and 42. So 42, hang on just a quick second here. 40. Clear. We need 32 divided by 14 equals, yeah, 2.5. Okay, so we actually need 3 of these. Okay, all right. I had the figures all done, and then all of a sudden I just blew my mind because I realized this didn't roll over. Okay, so this is the way we're going to do it. This is your fold. Okay, this is your fold, and you're going to trim 2 pieces from the fold all the way to the bottom. That's across the 59, so across here, so it's 29 and 0.25 inches wide, like this, from the fold to the edge. And this is the raw edge, the cut edge. The top part up here is the selvage. So we're going to leave the selvages on the top and the bottom, and we're going to cut across this fabric. And we're going to cut 2 of these, because even though you don't need all of both of them, you do need part of one of them. So what I'm going to do is, because my board will only go so long, I'm going to match up my edges, try to find my center as best I can. All right, now we're going to tilt this down so you can see just the fabric. Okay. So according to this direction, we have the fold up here at the top. We fold it across. This is the 42 inch. From here to here is 42 inches. Yes, 42 inches. Okay. So we're going to line it up over here. We're going to line it up using the very bottom of my cutting mat to show me the edge, and then we're going to use a ruler and cut off to make this even. It's actually pretty even right now, which surprises me because this stuff is never even. Okay. All right. Now our first cut is going to be 5 and I did not write that down. Hang on just a second. Our first cut is going to be 5 and 5/16. And for that, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 5/16. We're going to go in between the 4/8 and 6/8. And we need to cut 2 of these. Okay, and then these are going to get subcut into 2 and 5/8. But right now, let's just get the 5s cut. So we need to cut off, make sure I got that right here, 2 and 5/8, 2 and 5/16. I'm sorry. Now I'm really messing myself up. 5 and 5/16. So here's 1. Pull that out of the way. And then, and if it helps to mark it, then use the little tape that you can run it right down, but you're only going to need this one time. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 2, 4, 5/16. Okay. All right, so there's those 2. Set those off to the side. We're going to subcut those later. Okay? Now, for the next section that we're going to do, we need to actually do 2 12-inch, almost 13-inch squares, because each half of those squares is going to be one part of another block. They're part of the Maltese block. So we're going to, using 1 layer, and again, the only reason I'm folding it is because I just don't have that much space on my cutting table. We're going to cut this piece off at 12 and 7/8. And again, you want to make sure you're ironing out all the little creases that it has, because of course that really makes for a difficult measuring. Okay. My little fold looks really good, so we're going to go with that. All right, and one more time, I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to pull it over to the 4. I did this a lot last night. Okay. So 12 inches is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 7/8. And we are going to count it one more time, because measure twice, cut once. I've already messed up so much fabric I can't even tell you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 7/8. And I'm going to check my paper one more time, because one of the mistakes I made was I didn't recheck my paper, and I cut it at like 6.5, and it was actually supposed to be 6 7/8. But that's neither here nor there. Let's stick with this measurement. This measurement is, we need 2 squares at 12 and 7/8. So there we go. Now we have the top to the bottom. We're going to move this out of the way for right now. Now we need to cut 2 more. So if we come back, we know that 16 is 12 and then 7/8. But what are we going to do? We are going to check it one more time. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 7/8. We're going to make sure it matches from top to bottom, and then we are going to cut it. There you go. All right. The very next thing I do, I take a sticky note, put it on here, and mark it as 12 and 7/8. And actually, I usually use a pencil, because pencil doesn't transfer as well as ink will transfer to your fabric. And this is for your Maltese block, so you can go ahead and put Maltese. Now, at this point, you can even go ahead and cut it in half. Don't forget, with this particular fabric, the selvages really didn't matter, because as you can tell, they're almost non-existent. But normally you would go ahead and cut your selvages off. But let's go ahead, because this particular, the Maltese block requires 1 triangle of fabric that's going to match up to a combination of fabrics, and we'll get into that later. So we're going to cut it from corner to corner across, making a triangle. All right, so this one is done. Set this off to the side and just don't lose it. And I sticky note everything. This one is going to be subcut into, what did I say? 2 5/8, 2 5/8, and we need 32 total. That's going to be for 2 different blocks. So 32 total, and this is by 5 5/16. So we already did the 5 5/16, so we're going to mark that out. Now we just need to do 32 2 5/8 inch from here, and this is for both star blocks. Now we'll come back to that later, probably after we cut the colored fabric, because we're going to sandwich these with some of the colored fabrics. Okay, let's move that out of the way. Little spare piece, just throw it off to the side. All right, so that is the first sheet. We have cut both strips here, and they're both fairly long. They should be almost 60 inches long. And then on this one, we cut our 2 12-inch pieces. So we are done with this part. Next, we go to this section. And I put it off into different colors just so that we have something to look at and can figure this out easily. Meg, I'm doing a video, honey, okay? Can you go play with Ashley?
I can. I don't know.
Okay, hang on. Hold on. Okay, thank you so much for your patience. I am back. Okay, so we should end up with a piece of fabric. Now mine measures at 40, basically 48 by 31. Or was it 32? Maybe it was 32. Okay, so here's what's next. You're going to take your 31 inches and you're going to fold it over. And we are going to continue to subcut this piece of fabric. So you're going to want to line it up at the bottom. We only have 2 more sections to cut, and then you will be done with this fabric. And hopefully you will only have needed to use the 1 5/8 that is required for this particular quilt top. Okay, kind of got to get some of the stuff out of my way. I tend to gather up things on my desk. All right, so the next piece we're going to cut is the 6 7/8 inch block. So this should give you strips that are about 31 inches long by 6 7/8. All right, this is only 6. Okay, so my ruler is only 6 inches wide, and I need 6 7/8 inches according to my square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my 6 plus my 1, and I'm going to back it up 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so here, according to the ruler is 5 7/8, plus I have an extra inch off to the side, if that makes sense. Or this is 7/8 and then this is 6. Okay, so 6 inches by 7/8. All right, so we're going to cut, we need to cut two sections. And where's my, there it is. A handy dandy rotary cutter. That's 1. That should make 4. And then we're going to, again, move it so that it's straight. Line it up for our 6 7/8. Okay, so I have the 7/8 mark right here and here. So that gives me 6 7/8. Okay, so this is going to be, pardon, excuse me. We're going to write that for 6 7/8. We need 8 of them, and this is for our focus block. This is the one that you're going to use your printed or your pictures, your 6.5 inch picture in this block. So this is going to be for that. So we're going to subcut this just a little bit later. Okay, our very next one, we're going to do it the 4.5. And again, we need 8 of those. So let's find a little spot here. Okay, so we're going to lay it down where we think 4.5 is, and then we're going to count it. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And I'm going to check my measure. And again, this is for the star block, 4.5. That one. And then we're going to do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Okay. And this should give us 8. 8 each. How many do we need? Half. And we actually need 2 more. Because I just remembered it's 4 per block. So that is going to require us to make 4 more cuts. So it's 31. 31. Okay, so we should be able to get 6. So that's 12 and 6 more would make 18. And so let's see, 4, 4 is 8, 8 is 16. Perfect. Okay, so we need 3 strips cut. Okay, so 6, 12, 18, 4, 8, 16. So that should give us all the ones we need. And we'll have leftover fabric. We should still have some leftover. So if we mess this up somehow, and trust me, this is probably my 3rd or 4th time trying to fit this into a 1 5/8 inch piece of fabric. So these are 4.5 square, and we need 16 because we need 4 for each block, and there are 4 blocks. We're gonna need more. We will definitely need more. Okay. Hold on just a second. Okay, so after recalculating, we actually need 5 of these strips because we actually need 32 of these to go for both blocks and all 4 corners. So it's 4 corners, 4 times 4 blocks is 16 times 2 sets of blocks, which would be 32. So we can get 7 4.5 inch blocks out of each strip, and so that means we need 5 strips. So we will have just enough fabric to do this. I was thinking we were going to have a lot left over. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 4.5. This is usually where I make my most mistakes because I'm not paying attention when I'm putting my ruler down, and I wind up making a miscut. Okay, so we now have our 32. Oops, where'd it go? Well, somewhere in here is my piece of paper. Maybe not. Oh, I feel it. There it is. Okay. All right. So I put 16 blocks on here, but we actually need 32. So we're going to subcut that into 32 blocks. All right, set that off to the side. Again, we'll come back to that. Next, we need 8, and I rechecked this just to make sure. 8, 5, and 3/16 block. Let me recheck the number on here just to make sure. Yep, 8, 3, and 5/16. I'm sorry. 5 and 3/16. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3/16. And we're going to go between the 1/8 and the 2/8 to get our 3/16. And you wouldn't think that such a small increment would be such a big deal, but it really is, because I've tried it without doing the smaller increments and just going to the 8s, and it doesn't work out. It does cause causes extra cutting that you just don't really need to deal with. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3/16. And this is our last one, and this should be all of them, and this is what you have left. This piece and this piece. So it is big enough so that if you miscut some of the 5/16 or the 4s, you should be fine. But if you miscut on the 6 and 7/8, you're in trouble, because this is all the fabric you have left. Okay, so hopefully I got it all right this time. And again, these are going to be subcut into the next set of blocks. So let me grab a sticky note here, and this is 5 3/16, and we need 8 of those. And that will be for the 9 patch. That'll be for the 9 patch star. So, all right, so for this part is actually finished. I'm going to do another video with subcutting them, and then there's going to be another subcut, because once you cut the 2 and once you subcut the 2 5/8 by 5 5/16, then you still have another subcut to go. So that is it for now. So I need to make a couple notations. We actually needed 32 of these, not 8. So I need to rewrite that particular pattern again. All right, well, good luck. Hopefully that all works out, because I pretty much grew up cutting from patterns. So I always had something that showed me where to put it and how to put it onto the fabric so that I would maximize my fabric. And that's kind of what I wanted to do here. But as you can see, sometimes it's a bit of a challenge, because your brain is trying to wrap around all these numbers at one time. And so you just kind of, your brain just goes, bloop, and that's it. All there is to it. And you make a mistake. So hopefully this all works out for you. But that's all 5 of them. There should be 5 different cuts that you have to make. The 12, I hate to start rattling off numbers unless I have it right in front of me. So there's the 12 7/8 inch block. There's 2 of those that you're going to subcut into triangles. You've got the 6 7/8. You need 6 of those. I'm sorry. You need 8 of those. You have 32 of the 4.5 inch blocks. You'll need 32 of the 2 5/8 by 5 5/16. And again, we're going to take that out of the 5 5/16 wide. So we're going to cut them, subcut them into 2 5/8. And you should wind up with 32 of them. And that should be enough to do both of the star blocks. The other thing you need are 8 5 3/16. These are, this is all in the patterns that, the instructions that I will be sending out. But like I said, I wanted to do the white ahead of time, just because there are so many different blocks that are associated with this particular pattern, this particular color. So I wanted to make sure you've got those, okay? All right, so stay tuned. I'll have that next one ready for you. Thank you.